Alright. We'll move on to 2. I know a lot of people have some issue with 2. But a lot of people had issue with 1. But because of Global's foresight, we know a little bit more about this banner than Japan did. And that involves Cain. Cain gets an awakening here. Deal, I'm not gonna do that. So, 15 single target, ranged, physical, lightning, non-elemental jump attacks. And lightning, Awakened Dragoon. So, any Dragoon ability takes advantage of those 3 awakening effects I talked about. He increases his cap break level by 2. So, his maximum damage cap after using his awakening is 30k instead of 20k. And there's a reason for that. Because at this point in the game, Dragoons could not double cast. There didn't exist anywhere in the game where they could. That has changed. 6-star Lightning Dragoon has come out in Japan, yes. And it hits 6 times. So let's think about that for a second. You have Zidane's Awakening with a 20k cap. So he does 50 or 100,000 with every ability use. So 200,000 because he casts twice. Cain does not cast twice because at this point in the game he could not. That's why he gets the increased cap break. So he doesn't dual cast, but he gets a 30k cap. And eventually he gets a 6-star Lightning Dragoon ability that hits 6 times. This gives him, because he goes 30k on each hit, that brings him up to 180k. There is a real problem getting Cain up to his 30k cap, and that is a problem. He does do an unreal amount of damage with his 50% attack LM2. The fact that Dragoon abilities naturally deal a hell of a lot of damage. So you are going to see the cap, or you're going to at least break the 20k cap regularly. But there are better awakenings, and this gets much better when Cain eventually gets the ability to dual cast. That's really a lot of what he's missing. But, you know what I like to say is, why pull for something now if it's not strong now, when you can pull for it later when it becomes strong? And Cain is a popular character, and he is probably going to be around. So, if you were, like, dying to pull Cain's Awakening here, I'd probably wait on it. But if the rest of the banner agrees with you, and it very well might, because it's good, then it's not a bad thing to pick up at all. And I guess that's where I'm going to go from here. I'll talk about the unique end effect of his Awakening, which is every 3rd Dragoon ability triggers Boltstorm Spear, dealing ranged physical lightning, wind, non-elemental damage to 1 target. Boltstorm Spear can break the damage cap. So, use 3 Dragoon abilities, deal 100k. The same thing I talked about with Titus's. That's actually a really common, so it's not unique at all. Zidane's is, but Cain's is not. So, moving on with the banner, we have an Arcane for Sid Reigns, and Sid Reigns USB 2. This is going to be probably the decider on the banner for a lot of people, I think, and I think it is for me too, is This is amazing. Sid Rain's USB 2 is 10 dark and holy attacks, and dark, magic buff, and darkness ability double. Yes, Adia. So this is a really, really good USB. We do learn that Rains, along with Lightning and Snow, who are actually, you know, protagonists in their game, Rains just decides to tag along, and on one of the coming Final Fantasy XIII banners, Rains gets an awakening that just makes this obsolete. Same buff of his BSB? Yes, it is. So you wouldn't want to pair this with his BSB. This is a great soul break, but there may be people waiting for Final Fantasy XIII things. I mean, we got Alphino's Chain, 50% magic, wind chain, awesome. Onion Knight, oh man, this is probably what's going to get me to pull on the banner, is Onion Knight's USB 3. It's just a copy of Bart's. This is one of those USBs that you'll like to have. Stuff like this doesn't really go out of style, just like Bart's USB 1 doesn't. It just, the chase adds so much to almost all the things that the character can do. Yeah, Sid Rains' BSB has been pretty much taken out of the mix, unfortunately. So, alright, sorry, I just got sidetracked for a second. Onion Knight's USB 3. Does anyone not know what it does? It just allows him to be a quad elemental mage. Does Sid Rains? No. This is Sid Rains' last USB, I believe. I guess I could be wrong. I don't know why they would give him a Brave right after giving him an Awakening. Yeah, no, he doesn't get a Brave. He chases each of Wind, Water, Fire, Earth with 5 hits. Awesome. Also getting a cast speed buff. Also getting a magic buff. It's not that bad, Brick. Don't shit on it too hard. By itself, okay, it's awful. By itself, it's awful. But if Cecil does have a form of external and holy, it's very good. Because, yeah, there's a lot of utility that it works well in the tournament for. But by itself, it doesn't have an holy on it, so he adds utility to the team, but he doesn't do any damage with it. But if you have either his Glint, which is on this banner, or his LMR that starts him with Unholy on the banner, then he's in much better position. How do you use OK's USB 3 effectively as MUSB is still a great USB? Use both. Start with the MUSB and then just naturally soul break point up to the USB 3. Cast it when you can. So what Cecil's USB does is 10 attacks, grants last stand to all allies. Obviously, that's really good. Temporarily increase the damage of the user's night abilities. So he does get a 30% damage boost here for his Knight abilities, so if you do have Unholy as well, then okay, he's got the damage boost to make this worth something. And Brave Mode, yeah, unfortunately I have to tell you guys what the Brave Mode is. The Brave Mode at max charge is 7 single target physical holy attacks and HP stock 4,000 to the party. It's pretty good. He is more utility. He's a mix of utility and DPS. And unfortunately, without Unholy, it's just utility, and he's probably not worth bringing. And I understand that this by itself is pretty bad. But he is Cecil. He's a primary character, and he does have the things that can support this and make it worth using in the tournament. And we're going to get to one of those things right now, which is Cecil's Glint 2. Unholy stacking, and Night High Quick Cast. That's excellent. Alphino's Glint is, for a lot of the same reasons, is really good too, because as a chain holder, Alphino likes gaining other ways to give him end wind. And this is one of them. This is a great one. And he also has his End Wind LMR on the banner. Onion Knight's LMR, or Glint, is exactly what Furine's was, is 30% weakness boost and high quick cast too. I think this is basically for prior to using his Arcane, if you have the Soul Break points. Now we're to the LMRs. Honestly, I think getting Sid Reigns' LMR just makes his BSB awesome at this point in the game. Because Sid Reigns already does a pretty healthy amount of damage. Imagine if he just threw an extra 50-80% in with it. Instead of using his LM1. Whatever. I really like this LMR on Sid Reigns. Cain starting with Lightning, not that great, unless you're using with his Chain as first cast, then you're in. Otherwise, everything that he does gives him in Lightning anyway. And especially with Cain's Awakening, you're going to want the advantage other Legend Materia give to damage boosts after the Awakening is activated, which this does not. Yeah, if you have Cain's Arcane, then yeah, this is amazing. But it's not really meant to work with his Awakening, which is on this banner. So it's kind of a weird banner inclusion. Wish they had sorted out the dual cast Dragoon thing this early. Apparently they didn't. No More Holy? Yeah, it looks like No More Holy. They're heavily moving away from Holy for Sid Reigns. I'm going to try to make it work for the 5-star Magicite, but no guarantees. Does Cain have another LMR? Yeah, he has one other. It gives him increased Dragoon damage with a Spear equipped, and he eventually gets more, too. The Dragoon damage with Spear equipped is clearly a very good LMR to use with his Awakening. Good evening, Rainmaker. Alphino is a chain holder, meaning that starting out with an element is an awesome LMR. I do not like Onion Knight's LMR. I went over this, like, deeply during the last festival when it first came out. I hate it. But if you do not have his LMR 1, the one that gives him instant cast 2, then this would be a good thing to use. But otherwise, there is no time I would ever use this over 35% chance to dual cast Black Magic. This only applies to black magic abilities, so it's not like this applies to his arcane or his soul breaks, where his 35% chance to dual cast doesn't. No, they both apply to the same stuff, and I will take 35% chance to dual cast over that every single time. And I can't imagine playing the game with Onion Knight not having his instant cast 2 at the start of the fight. So I don't know. I don't know when I would use this, so I don't like this LMR at all. But if you don't have that LMR, the Instacast LMR, this is obviously great. It's night and day. Night and day. And I already talked about how valuable it is for Cecil to have, just be starting the battle with Unholy, or have another source of Unholy that's not his USB that's on the banner. So, this is a good banner, kind of similar to Banner 1, though I would say Banner 1 is better quality overall. Because Zidane's Awakening, Zidane is a better character than Cain is, for now. But it's still a really good banner if the things that the banner does are all good for you. So what is that? We have lightning, we have physical lightning, magical dark, magical winds, magical lots of stuff, physical holy, but primarily Final Fantasy IV. That's, I think, the main theme of this banner, is Cain's Awakening and Cecil, a bunch of Cain and Cecil things, and then add in, if you need the others, which is the Wind Chain, Onion Knight, Final Fantasy III, and Final Fantasy XIII. Because Reigns is one of, like, a great character for the tournament, because he basically self-buffs himself into oblivion, so he doesn't have to be a part of any weird, like, or any specific team comp, which there really isn't in Final Fantasy XIII anyway. So it's kind of similar to Banner 1, that if this thing accomplishes what your account needs, it's a good banner, and that's why I'm going to be pulling on it. My Final Fantasy IV needs DPS, and my Final Fantasy XIII needs DPS. I have great healing in Final Fantasy IV, I have great healing in Final Fantasy XIII, but I have severe DPS problems in both. So, this is actually a really good banner for me. Oh, and Final Fantasy III. I'm very close to a sub 30 in Final Fantasy III, and this would go a long way to solving that problem. Not only that, but Onion Knight's one of the best characters in the game. I want all Onion Knight stuff. I'll even take his LMR. I'll only complain a little bit if I get it. For that plus 10 magic. Alright, so everyone agree with that kind of a assessment of the banner? In the case of both of these first banners, they're not overly powerful for Awakening banners, but they are very pullable if they have the things on it that help your account. Me too. Onion Knight's Awakening is insane. How much do I think I'll pull on this? At least 50. Possibly 100.